light of infinite.
So many of us feel disconnected so much of the time. Exile is a state of disconnect. Redemption is the rectification of that state. We spin stories in our head, filling in the blanks of desolation that often feels like desperation, because it's chiyut, the feeling of life and connection that we all crave and that sustains us. I'm certainly no exception. Stories spin in my head when I feel uncertain before I'm able to see things clearly. Anxiety is the feeling we experience when Emunah, faith, and Bitachon, trust, become distant. For interpersonal relationships, there are solutions to lessen the anxiety. Communication can deconstruct the stories we build in our head, which are a mix of emotion, judgment, projection, and worry. But in some circumstances, when we can't speak to the other person, or perhaps doing so wouldn't offer much solace, we need to tap into ourselves, and even more the source, Hashem, and the Bitachon that all is in the hands of Hashem and that all will be for the best. We have to trust the process and the path towards a perfected state that we can align with at any point. Just as Hashem sustains and recreates the world at every moment, we too are creating the reality of our own journey from moment to moment. If we feel we are going in the wrong direction, we can turn it all around at that moment. It may take a while to feel aligned again, but we can be sure of being on a path towards alignment. Looking ahead in the right direction will allow some calm in the feeling of the storm, and tapping into Emunah that will all be alright, which will bring the feeling of rightness that much sooner. If we are able to sustain and create our own happiness, and ensure the base of happiness is within ourselves, then we can stop looking towards others to fulfill the feeling that only we are able to give ourselves. The foundation of fulfillment and happiness must be there in our relationship to ourselves for there to be healthy relationships with others. This allows our default setting to be happy and secure rather than feeling sad, lacking, and insecure when things with another person might feel misaligned. Ben Zoma asks in Pirkei Avot, "Who is rich? He who rejoices in his lot. As it said, you shall enjoy the fruits of your labors, and you shall be happy, and you shall prosper." The feeling of richness and happiness comes from focusing on the positive and celebrating the moment. The feeling of sadness and poverty comes when the focus shifts to the opposite perspective, and validation of such feelings is focused outward. Healthily navigating the ascents and descents of life is the reality of life in exile. We read this week, "Take from among yourselves an offering to Hashem. Whoever is generous of heart shall bring gold, silver, and copper as a contribution to Hashem." Rabbi Nachman of Breslov teaches that at the time of the revelation at Sinai, the Jews reached awesome levels of prophecy, seeing Hashem, quote-unquote, face-to-face, which raises the question, how did they then go on to build the golden calf? Rabbeinu teaches that when we are ready to ascend to a higher level, the klipot, the outer covering or shell which conceals godly light within all creation, are aroused to attempt to prevent us from rising to even greater spiritual heights. But when we conquer the klipot, we ascend to the next level. This happens again and again at each level. These klipot are the power of imagination within all of us, the power in parts that work against us. Rabbeinu teaches that to subdue these klipot, we must give tzedakah, charity, which represents an action outward of giving, of focusing on the other. The act of tzedakah sweetens judgment, the judgments on ourselves and the judgments on us from our source. Reb Natan adds that when we don't subdue the klipot of each level, they can overpower us and push us into a descent. This is what happened to the Jewish people, which caused them to choose to construct the golden calf. The rectification of this was building the Mishkan, the tabernacle, which represents giving charity from the heart. The Torah goes on to an incredible amount of detail about the Mishkan, spending 13 chapters to describe every element of the tabernacle and how it should be constructed. To put this into perspective, only 3 chapters are devoted to the revelation at Mount Sinai, and only 1 chapter to the creation of the universe. It's written in the Zohar that the language used to describe the building of the Mishkan in Shemot is identical to the language described in how Hashem created the universe in Breshit. Rabbi Shneir Zalman of Liadi writes in Tanya, "This, the Mishkan, is the purpose of God's creation and of the creation of the worlds, higher and lower, that there may be made for God a dwelling in the lower realms." There's something essential to Hashem's purpose for the Jewish people in this structure. In the storyline of Torah, the description of the Mishkan and its construction in Parashat Truma, Vayak'hel, and Pekudei bookend the sin of the golden calf and Hashem's ultimate forgiveness of the children of Israel. This structure, a movable temple, becomes a sign of Hashem's renewed closeness between Himself and the Israelites, us. The mystical essence of the root word Truma, donation, means to lift up. Through these Parshiot, we follow all the ways in which the Israelites can offer their donations and their contributions to construct a dwelling place for the divine. And it is exactly in those ways that the Israelites' souls went from the sin of the golden calf and the verse, "Go descend, from your people have become corrupt," to returning to their holy origins. Whoever is generous of heart shall bring the offering to Hashem. This is the potential of the supreme emanation of the divine light that every person can tap into. It emanates from heaven to earth and from earth to heaven. go to lightofinfinite.com to see how I tie this into this week's Parsha. Shabbat Shalom.